I think we all cried a little. When you
Well, hello, everybody. Yes. Good evening. This is Dr. Khalfani. I'm here to thank you all for good evening. This is Dr. Khalfani. I'm here to thank you all for joining us. We are here. This is live, our regular live event, and we are making sure that the people know that we're on the pulse of what's going on. And today we're going to be talking about what's going on with regard to voting. And I wanted to bring to the forefront of why we must vote. And but before I begin, let me just give a little intro and background. For those of you who don't know, I'm Dr. Akil Khalfani. I'm running for U.S. Congress in New Jersey's 10th Congressional District, and we're here pounding the pavement in the ways that we can today in the context of this pandemic, and making sure that we spread the word to tell the people that it's time for a new beginning. It's time for a new reality in terms of what Congress is about, and in terms of who the people are in Congress and what they're going to do for the people. We can only bring about change if we are committed to thinking and doing outside the box. So I want to ask you to invite your friends and families to join us, to come here. We do this every Friday, Thursday. We're right here talking with you, the people, and answering your questions and making sure that we are on the pulse of what's going on. And so as we do that, I want you to realize we're going to be continuing to do this once we're in Congress. Maybe not as frequent, but we're going to do this anyway, because I think that that's what we need to do in terms of bringing the voice of the people to Congress and the voice of Congress to the people, so that there's a way that we can be hands-on in our engagement. So please send a text, a tweet, WhatsApp, whatever you have to do to send out a message to your friends and family. Tell them to join us here on Facebook. We're also on YouTube. We're live on Facebook Live and YouTube. So we're streaming in both locations right now. So we're excited to be able to provide that level of a platform for you. If it doesn't work in one place, you can be sure to get it in the other places. Check out our website. You can find all the details for our campaign. You can find out how to donate. As a matter of fact, we need your donations. We're up against a machine, and we intend to win. We intend to beat the machine, but we need your help. We need your financial, social, political, all the types of support that you can provide, your prayers, and we're going to win this race, because this race is not about me. It's about we. It's about what we're going to do to bring about change. So invite your friends and family, tell them to come on over here and talk with us, and ask them to visit the website at www.akilkhalfani.com. And you'll remember our chat, well, not our chat, but our focus here is to talk about the things that matter for the people. And as we're doing so, I want you to also remember that our slogan is "I rock with Doc." And some people say, well, why is it I rock with Doc? And it's I rock with Doc because, as a PhD in sociology and African studies, my thing is that I got a lot of training. I have the benefit of a lot of experience and education. At over 20 years in school, from elementary all the way up to grad school. And all of that experience, I plan to bring it to bear in Congress. And so I rock with Doc means that you're going to rock with me. That we're gonna rock together. We're gonna do this thing in a major way. And we also are going to not only that, but we're going to hold this campaign together solid as a rock. And it's going to take, we're coming in with boulders, and we're going to bold over the status quo. We're going to roll with the things that we need to make the status quo no longer the status quo. We're coming in with a progressive agenda that's looking to find ways to work with both sides of the aisle, because you can't get anything passed on your own. So that means that we've got to learn how to do what I talk about, and that's called having courageous conversations. We've got to be consensus building. We've got to push the envelope when it has to be pushed. We have to be unyielding when we need to be unyielding, but we need to be able to be flexible so that we can see that sometimes that there needs to be more flexibility. And that's true for politics, and that's true for international governance. So all these things are important in places where we're going to do those things. So I invite you to come on this journey. I need you to be my rock, right? I need the people to be the rock, so that when I get pushback in Congress, I got somebody who's holding me up. I got a whole group, a mountainside of people who are holding up the 10th congressional district as we push things forward. So we're going to come in and we're going to be solid. We have 3 counties and 18 municipalities and 700 and almost 60,000 people. And so that's who we are representing, not just the people who are voting, not just the people in my who are my constituents, but all the people within the 10th district, the people in the state of New Jersey, and the citizens of the United States. So that's who we're representing, and we're going to represent them strong. And today, though, we're here to talk about voting, and I want to play a little something for you. And this is going to be the start of our conversation about voting today. I heard this earlier, and I thought it was apropos. So let me turn up the volume. It's really short, just a couple seconds. This is John Lewis, and here, listen to what he says.
You see something that is not right, not fair, we have a moral obligation to say something, to do something. Continue to be brave and bold and courageous. Continue to stand up, speak up, and speak out. All of us.
So that's the shoulders on which I'm planning to stand, right? That when you see something, that you must stand up and stand out. And as we're moving through this process here, people like John Lewis, people like Martin Luther King, people like Malcolm X, people like Fannie Lou Hamer, all of these people saw the injustices of our society, and they stood up and stood out. Angela Davis, they all stood up and stood out. We have some folks who are political prisoners today who stood up and stood out. And so we've got to make sure that we come to terms with the fact that there are people who died and paid the ultimate sacrifice for us to be able to be here, to be able to participate in this democratic process. And I'm not saying it's perfect, so don't get me wrong. But that's one of the reasons why I'm running, because of its imperfections and the possibility of creating a more perfect electoral process. I think that it's time for us to come in with people who are not stuck on the status quo, people who don't have attachments to it. Not that we don't have attachments to tradition, but that we're not attached to the mechanisms of the oppressive ideas that happen, that still exist. We're not attached to the structures that suggest that there's only one way to do things. We've got to realize that it's going to take us to push the envelope. And some people are going to be uncomfortable. And that's what I call those courageous conversations. Those courageous conversations are the key for us to get to a place where we have new ideas that come to the table, and that those new ideas make way for us to step outside of something that is basically not functional for us. And that's how we have to see this, is that if something is not working, what do we do differently? And I would suggest to you what we have to do differently is that we've got to push the envelope. We've got to look at that. The reason that we're have the opportunity to run is because when we look at there's a great African proverb. I believe I've said this before, and I'm going to continue to say this proverb. And it says, in order to have 10, your neighbor has to have 9. And in other words, what that's saying is that we've got to lift as we grow, right? So if you're moving up, then that means you have to lift up the person or persons behind you or next to you, in front of you, behind you. Uh, and that you have to realize that also somebody is lifting you even if you don't see it, even if you don't understand that that person is lifting you or persons are lifting you, that they provided a way, that somebody knocked down the door to make it possible for you to get through that place. And as they knocked the door down, they provided the keys for you to get to the next place. So I've had a lot of people providing me with keys to get indoors. I've gotten a lot of doors that maybe my cousins and nieces and nephews. Well, I won't say my nieces and nephews, but my cousins and colleagues and friends who I grew up with that didn't have the same access. And so, therefore, it behooves me to create the space for other people to have access to those things, to recognize that I'm standing on somebody's shoulders. And the point we heard from John Lewis about when we see something that is not going right, that we need to do something about it, that we need to stand up, and we need to sometimes put ourselves in harm's way to do those things. And that as we are in harm's way, it doesn't mean that you do so in a foolish way, because the civil rights folks that they studied, right, that they didn't just jump into something, that they had a rhyme and reason to why they did what they did. Now, everybody might not have agreed with it, but that they did it demonstrated that they had strategy. And that's what we have to have today. And that's what we have to teach the young folks who are marching and rallying today and protesting in all the ways that they do, that we need to teach them so that they become the John Lewis of this generation, so that they become the Malcolm X and Fannie Lou Hamer of this generation, so that they become the Martin Luther King and Kwame Ture of this generation. All of those folks, all those different organizations provided a pathway for the folks who are doing things now. And some of them have never maybe even heard of their names. But I think that this is the time for them to start hearing the names of those folks and start doing the things that are going to be necessary to create space for others to come into the fold. That they have to realize that they are the ones who they're the path bearers for tomorrow, right? So they are leading the way for something to be done differently. And as we think about that, then we do what we do differently. I want us to think about, as we're talking about voting, though, and the reason why we must vote. I want to speak specifically about the current administration, the current state of Congress. And when we look at the current state of Congress and what we see that Mitch McConnell and others have pushed an agenda. I would suggest to you that we see an agenda that is highly racialized. I study race relations. I'm a professor of race relations, and with this highly racialized language that we see, that both is coming from the administration and the certain facets of the Republican Party. I'm not going to create a broad brush like some do and say that everybody in the Republican Party or everybody in the Democratic Party goes a particular way, because we have people who fit in different places along the scale, and we've got to see where they fit and why they fit where they fit. And we have to be willing to challenge them on where they are. Sometimes we just want to sign on to something because it says Democrat or Republican or independent or libertarian or whatever it may be that someone wants to automatically sign on. But we've got to have a critical analysis of it. And so we, as we vote, that our vote has to make sure that we are addressing things in a very progressive and informed fashion. I think we have to help the ourselves and our community to become a more learned electorate. We've got to study the issues. We've got to study the candidates and see why they're voting the way they're voting. What is their record? What have they done in the past? It shouldn't just automatically that someone who's been in office for a long time shouldn't automatically just get a pass to continue in that regard. We have to challenge why they're there and challenge what they've been doing or what they have not been doing. And I think that's when we do those things, that's going to be the thing that changes the way in which the governance process happens. We have to make sure that those who are in Congress, that is in the House or in the Senate, that they are thoroughly representing our interests, not just the interest of the lobbyist, but the interest of the people, because that in the end is who elected folks, right? Is really the lobbyists who oftentimes get an opportunity to motivate people to go one way or another, but it's us who are the electorate who are the ones who vote for people and whom they're really representing. And so I'm coming in as a person who is a voice of the people and is voting and is running with the agenda of the people and is for and by the people, right? And I think that makes a very big difference in terms of how we see ourselves in the process. And I think that we have to recognize that if we really want to be about progressive change, if we really want to be about stepping outside the comfort zone, that we've got to find like-minded people, right? So once I get into Congress, I'm going to find those other like-minded people, like AOC and others who are part of the squad, or different folks who come in with different ideas and push people, all of them, to step outside of their comfort zone so that we have the type of righteous dialogue that is and well-informed dialogue that gets to excellent legislation. We don't need good legislation. We need great legislation. We need things that are going to last for a long time and that can be the foundation of things that are going to bring about a new kind of governance of the people, for the people, by the people. And that's really what we need to think about, is that if we don't do that, then I would suggest that we've not done what needs to be done for those who came before us, right? That their sacrifices of walking over the Edmund Pettus Bridge, of coming through the Montgomery bus boycott, of fighting for the pushing through of the Voting Rights Act, right? All those things are important for us to understand that, the Constitution guaranteed the right to vote for everybody, but we had to have the Voting Rights Act of the 1960s because all of the extra legal measures that were put before people. And you see this same type of thing happening today, except for it's in a slightly different way. And this takes us right to the issue with the post office. I'm getting ready to post up on my website and on social media all of the videos I've done at the post office. I've participated in several rallies at post office because I think it's a crime, really, that we have fully working machines that sort the mail being taken out of the mail processing facilities, and then the mail is not going to be able to be processed in a timely fashion for the people. The machines, it's not like the machines were broken and they were being updated. These were things that were taken out for basically unrighteous, illegal measures, and that we've got the people who are responsible for that need to be held accountable. And once I'm in Congress, I'm going to push to make sure that those who are responsible for doing so are held accountable. That we have the kinds of of not only hearings but the consequences that go along with that. Because this is taxpayer and people who spend the money to make the post office run. That's how that happens, right? So that if the post office requests money from the federal government, the post office has federal marshals. All of those things are ways in which that it makes it possible for the mail to be delivered, and for us to realize that there's millions and millions of dollars that are spent on these machines, these devices, to help the U.S. have the most efficient postal delivery service that there is. And for someone to destroy that is absurd. It doesn't make sense and is not acceptable. And members of Congress need to hold the folks accountable for doing that. And I'm not sure that that's going to happen with the current administration and or Congress. But when I'm in Congress, we are definitely going to be holding people accountable. And I encourage you to look at your Congress people who you're voting for in. Well, some places have early voting. They'll start in August. Other places in New Jersey will start here. Ballots will be out by October the 5th. So you can vote early. And I ask you, if you want to vote early, please do, and vote for me in your process. So why we must vote is that we've got to make sure that the right to have a fair election is upheld. And right now, I don't see that being the case. So your voting is the thing that's going to ensure that. Your lack of voting is going to ensure that those who are already in office doing what they're doing are going to remain in office. And if you don't like what you see, then we have to do something about it. Have our righteous indignation, our engagement in transforming the society in which we live. And so we've got to push the envelope. I'm going to invite you all to have some questions. If you have questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll have somebody to get them to me, and then we'll answer them. This is Dr. Khalfani. I'm running for U.S. Congress in the 10th Congressional District. I'm excited. I'm fired up, and I'm ready to go. I need your involvement. I need your participation. I need you to be engaged in the political process. And we're talking about voting today, why we must vote, and we're going to bring about a change, because that's what's needed. We need positive change, right? We don't just need any change, because change could be bad, but we need positive change. We need a new person in the office, in the White House, and I'm asking you to go on and vote for that. And don't just vote the line, right? I want you to step outside your comfort zone in that way. I'm going to tell you right now. So for me, for Essex County, I'm 3D. Hudson County, I'm 3C. And for Union County, I'm 4D. So if we could put that all in the chat so people can have it, then that would be great. So if you're in Essex County, don't vote line A, don't vote line B, don't vote line C, vote line 3D. If you're in Hudson County, vote line 3C. And if you're in Union County, vote line 4D. That will put a notice to all others about what we're doing and what our candidacy is about, and that new day of the political process is here. That we're waking up our constituency. We're waking up the minds of the American people, and we must vote because our lives depend on it. Literally, our lives depend on it. Why must we vote? Because our children's education depends on it. Why must we vote? Because we have the responsibility of looking after the generations to come. And we've got to do so in a way that reflects on our understanding of racial injustice in society, that reflects on our understanding of the economic injustices, the gender injustices, women still earn less than, in some places it depends on socioeconomic status. It depends on lots of variables, a lot of factors, but in on average around 80 cents to the dollar for men. So we've got to address those issues. We got to address the issues about whoever wants to marry can marry whoever they want to marry. But if you're not voting, you can't make changes on those things. So we've got to look at that and figure out how we're going to do that, and come up with strategies, come up with our own concerted effort that we do to make that happen. So ask you if you guys have questions, go ahead and send me a question or two. I'd be glad to answer them. We're going to be having town halls like this all throughout the after we're elected. And I'm going to find ways to do this both while I'm in Washington and while I'm in the district. When I'm in a district, we'll hold live ones, assuming everything is back to normal or as close there to be as it can be. And then when I'm in Washington, if we have time, we'll hold periodic virtual ones. So that way I can still be in touch with constituents, even when I'm not in the district. All right. First question says, what do you say to people who don't plan to vote because they wanted Bernie and do not like Biden? Well, the thing is that at this point, Bernie has endorsed Biden, so Bernie is a non-issue in terms of the actual election. In terms of what people want, yeah, I think that we need to find if that's what people want, then they need to start working now on the next Bernie, right? Who is that person that's going to provide that level of motivation for people? Who's going to have those kind of political issues? And it's not just a one person. And I said this several times, is that as we're thinking about elections, we've got to have people who come and push the envelope to have multiple people get into office who are willing to address those issues. So that means that you need people in the House, you need people in the Senate. And I would suggest we need to go as far as looking at state elections, county elections, and municipal elections, because each of those different levels of governance affect the outcome of what's happening in people's neighborhoods. What's happening in your schools, what's happening in your whole platform of governance structures, the environment, right? The environment plays itself out not just on the federal level, but what happens with municipalities, what happens with counties, what happens with states. All of those things have to be coordinated. But I think we need to do a better job of that type of coordination. Within our district, we have certain schools that have partnered together to do certain things, and we need to look at that at all of those levels to have more partnering. But if you don't elect people in office who are willing to have those types of consideration, then you won't get the change that you need to make that happen. So we've got to look holistically at the electoral process, and those become the things that bring about the change that we need. Other questions? I might play this quote again for you at the end for people who didn't get to see it, because I think that it's a powerful piece for us to look at. All right. So when we make sure that we are voting and we're looking at the voting process, we have to look at all the impediments, look at all the things that have been done to impede people's ability and right to vote, and we have to come up with other strategies that are going to ensure that the illegal and extra legal measures that they've used are not that there's something to halt them. right? We've got to close the door on that type of really is vote tampering, right? So that if you don't allow people to get to the polling place for a variety of reasons, that to me is tampering with the process. We need to make sure that we eradicate bias and discrimination in the process. That we had an issue before during the primary where there were bags of ballots that didn't get to it. And why is that? What happened with those things? Some places the ballots didn't get to where they need to get to because uh, somebody said they didn't have postage. It doesn't make sense. They have automatic postage on them. So we gotta inspect the systems. We gotta inspect the process and make sure that there's transparency, that there's integrity. But if we are not voting in the people at the county and the state and the municipal level, the federal government can't do it by itself. If you don't have a legitimate way of ensuring that the votes are counted, then you can rest assured you may not get the people in who are legitimately elected in the positions that you voted for. So we've got to make sure that we have across the board people who are trustworthy, who are transparent, and have a level of integrity that is superior. But you've got to can't just check a box to do that. You've got to make sure that you are looking at why we're electing a particular person, why that person seems to have merit for us to elect him or her. And I think we can do those things, but we've got to recognize that it's business as usual is not going to get us there. That if we really want to bring about that level of change, that what's required is for us to push people to do things that they haven't been willing to do in the past. And I think that so that's what we have to do. The other reason why I think that we must vote is when we think about, and the voting here is, like many of the school board elections have moved to November, just like some of the municipal elections have moved to November. And when we think about those things, that you must vote because you have to have people in the school board who are willing to support your issues. You have to have people in the school board who can fight for the children and make sure that those tax dollars that are spent in a way that is effective, and that make sure that we are doing what needs to be done with those dollars. And the same is true at each level of governance, that we've got to vote people in who are going to adopt policy and spend the money of the people in ways that best represent the interest of the people, not people who are having money spent because they know somebody who produces something and it is not the best quality. They know somebody who produces something or provides some service and it's not efficient. We've got to make sure that we have the level of professionalism, efficiency, and integrity in the process. And your voting is the thing that helps us to get there. Your voting is the thing that ensures that the people who are there represent you and not just themselves. And so we have to come to terms with that and realize that today is a new day, and that we shouldn't allow the electoral process of the past be the thing of today, right? So that when we look at when other people got elected and they were upsetting the apple cart, if you will, that's what we need. That's what we need. We need people to be getting elected who are outside of the norm, because we need fresh ideas. We need new levels of analysis. And someone who has a training like me brings a fresh level of analysis to the table, brings a fresh and nuanced way of thinking about things holistically, sociologically, and those are the benefits of having what I've been trained to do, and I've only been trained to do that because of the blessings of those who came before me. Right, because if you look at education, African Americans, it was illegal for us to learn to read and write. So that somebody fought hard for us to be able to get access to quality education is the reason why I was able to go to the University of California and the University of Pennsylvania. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had that level of education. The reason I continue to teach at Essex County College is because our students deserve the best. And I think that, I bring my best to the table for our students, for our community, in an academic way for the last 15 years. In an academic way, when I taught at Seton Hall and Fairleigh Dickinson, when I adjuncted at University of Pennsylvania, right? So in all those places, at University of California, all those places, those classes that I taught, those students that I taught many years ago, right? So those are the things that we bring to the table. My first class that I taught was in a summer bridge program at the University of California in 1988. And then I did again in 1989. Those students were impacted by the things that I learned. And I've learned a lot more about the teaching process, but also about myself and about the world in which we live in since then. And so bringing all that to bear has helped me to understand why we must vote, right? And people say sometimes, well, I don't vote because it doesn't, it doesn't do anything anyway. It doesn't change anything. Well, sitting at home doesn't change anything either. If that's your philosophy, we've got to figure out something that we can do to bring about that level of systemic change. And that's where you'll find it. But we've got to see it that way. Here we have let's see. I just wanted to say that I voted for 30 years. All right. Congratulations. Let's give Ms. Matilda congratulations. Thank you very much. I find that many of our issues and concerns are always forgotten. If you are elected, will you keep your promise on your hopes to better the system? Most definitely. Those who know me know my record. I've been working vociferously, fighting for our community for the last at Essex for the last 15 years, but really in terms of my work for the last 20 or 30 years. And I guess more than 30 years now. I've been working really hard to bring about the level and types of social change from an academic, political, and other ways, socioeconomic ways, for a very long time. And I have been consistent in fighting for our issues and making a voice for those issues. I sit now on the West Orange Human Relations Commission. I've fought for and am fighting for those issues today. Work with different school boards to fight for those issues. I spoke before the TSA, the Transportation and Security Administration. Spoke before their group in Newark, talking about that we've got to. It was there on their day dealing with culture and history, and that we've got to make sure that we realize that we, even as the TSA, that they've got to look at themselves and be introspective and recognize that since they're by training profiling people, that they have to make sure that they're not biased in their process, that they're not discriminating, and that they see people as whole people, and not that they see somebody's color or something else and then they have some negative visceral response to that. And I think those the same kind of training and thinking that we need to have with our police force, right? So that's one of the reasons I'm talking about we need criminal justice reform. And that criminal justice reform also deals with the reforming of policing. And those things go hand in hand. You can't have you can't defund the police and then not talk about what you do with criminal justice. It doesn't work that way. You're going to end up not resolving or solving the problems that you're trying to solve. We have to be holistic about the things that are we see as problems, and we have to be holistic about the solutions that we use to address them. A piecemeal solution never brings about the justice that we're looking for. And I think that's what we've been stuck with. In fact, I wrote in my book, The Hidden Debate, when I talked about liberation and freedom and equity, equality and justice, I said that what we really ended up with is gradations of liberation. So we never really got liberation. We only got gradations of it. And we got gradations of it because we got tricked into seeing what really liberation or freedom was really about. And it was somebody else's definition. We've got to define what that means for ourselves. And as we're doing that, then we come up with a different reality about it. Right. So that in Congress, we have an opportunity with me in Congress, we have an opportunity to define that for ourselves in ways that hasn't maybe been done in the past, because I'm going to be pushing that envelope on the definition of what that means. I'm going to be pushing the envelope on somebody else's imposed analysis or reality of something, because I think that staying the course is what we have to do. And I've been on that path, and I will continue to be on that path. But we have to collectively be on that path. It's not just something that I can do. Other questions? This is, yeah, you can put that back up. I couldn't see it. A question says, how do voters feel encouraged and empowered when their local officials don't represent them or fight for their issues, even after hundreds speak up? I fear that people are feeling disenfranchised and they will remain silent. And we can't have that in these times. Exactly. So the answer to that is that it's not just about what I do; it's about what we do collectively. So, and this speaks to my point about how we have to make sure that it's not just the local folks, but it has to be the county, the state, and federal, and we have to have those kinds of dialogues. And so I'm going to bring a place where we can have discussions about those things that engages those different levels of governance, so that we have a more comprehensive, well thought out set of solutions to the problems that we're encountering. And I think that that's a better approach to it. It's definitely a more holistic approach to it. And, and then just coming to hear the people and finding out what is that, you can't, any one person's proposed solution is not always the thing that gets meted out, but it has to be that even the people themselves have to have a dialogue, and that if someone's there representing the people, then that means that not all the time is it the thing that the person who's elected wants, but it's the thing that the people whom they represent want. And so it's not about just putting forth my ideas, putting forth my agenda. It's about putting forth the agenda of those who I came to represent. And that's how you maintain your level of integrity about the process. And that's what I'm committed to. So thank you for your question. Other questions? This is Let's Talk with Dr. Khalfani. And we are here every Thursday at 8 o'clock. We try to spend 30, 40 minutes or so. We've been about 40 something minutes now, addressing your questions, your concerns, and speaking to the topics. We're going to have a couple of different shows coming up in the near future, but I encourage you to check out our Facebook page, check out our WhatsApp page, and check out our website. We're going to ask you to join us by making a donation. We need your financial support. We want to do a mailer, and it takes a lot of money. We need to print up some things, and we need your support to help us to get those things printed. So if your donation is small or large, you can have a donation from $1 to a donation to $2,000. Either one, we're honored to have, because we want to do the things that are necessary to give us a way to change how we do what we do. But to get to that place of being elected, we need your support. We need you to, we're getting ready to do major phone calling. You can help us by doing phone banking. You can sponsor or organize a fundraiser. You can organize a talk, and I'll come in and join your group. It could be virtual or physical. We can do lots of different things. We're going to have a bunch of things we're going to be coming up with, and we need all the support we can get because your voice and your vote matters. And the other thing I want to say about why we must vote and what voting means is that voting doesn't necessarily um, only mean, I see, the question is, how do we donate? Please go to www.akilkhalfani.com, and there's a donate link on there. If you have any questions, there's an email address on there, electdr.khalfani@gmail.com, and we'll help you navigate through the space. But yes, please do that. We need your support. But once again, being involved in the electoral process doesn't mean that you have to necessarily vote, because what it means is that if you can't vote, for instance, if there's one reason or another, you can't vote. But you can be engaged in the process by walking around, knocking on doors, talking to people, talking to your friends and colleagues and family members. So being engaged in the electoral process is something that anybody and everybody can and should do. And I encourage you to join us in that process by getting involved. Having somebody else you could organize a fundraiser and have that, it has to have certain parameters. There's things you have to do, but we can help you do all those things. And we can have a fundraiser to raise money. Money can be raised for a particular thing. We can have money for signs, money for promotional materials, money for an ad, money for yard signs. All of these different types of things are the things that we need to raise money for, and we need your support in doing so. So join us on this journey. It's not a short journey because it's not about just getting elected. It's about getting on the other side and changing lives, getting on the other side and changing legislation, starting new legislation, making sure that the things that are dear to our existence are both voiced and enacted. But we've got to make sure that we're thinking differently about this election. We can't just go and click down the line and think that we're going to have something different happen. If you're going to vote for Biden, which I'm going to do, then you move from there over to Khalfani, right? So then Khalfani in Essex County is D3, right? D3 or 3D. In Hudson County, we'll be on the ballot at 3C. And in Union County, we'll be on the ballot at 4D. So all these things I need you to remember, whichever county you're in, and don't just vote the line, vote the rock. And our motto is "I rock with Doc." So we're going to use our rock to rock things up. We're going to come up here on one of these meetings, and we're going to have some music playing that talks about rock. Michael Jackson said, "I want to rock with you." So rock with me. Ashford and Simpson said, "Solid as a rock." So let's be solid as a rock. And Queen had a song also about a rock. "We will rock you." So let us rock those who are in party right now and come up with legislation and ideas that are rocking the foundation of those who are in office, and making sure that we bring to the forefront new ideas, new ways of thinking that will change what happens in Congress. So I'm going to play for you this one last clip on my way out the door here, and I want you to make sure that we collectively come together and realize that we have a lot of things that we can do differently if we travel in a different way. We've got to think differently And then when we think differently, we can do differently. When we want to recognize that the vote is in our hands, we've got to reach out and be sure that we do those things that are in our hands. I'll take one last question if there's one more, and then we're going to be done for tonight. But please make sure that you go out and vote. I want to end with this, that in terms of voting, you can go to your ballots in New Jersey will be mailed out. You should have them on or about October the 5th. In addition to that, you can mail your ballots back in as early as possible, or you can go. We're going to put this up on the website. I don't have all the information yet, but we're going to put it up on the website. You can take it to the county ballot boxes. So the county ballot boxes are going to be throughout the county. I'm going to find out what those locations are, and I'm going to have that information. And then in addition to that, the county ballot boxes, where you can take it down to the county Hall of Records, and then on the day of the election, and you can vote that way. The deadline for registering is the 13th of October. So the ballots will already be mailed out, but you can still register up until the 13th. And you can take your stuff to the polling place. There's going to be a few polling places open, at least one in each municipality. And those polling places are primarily for ADA purposes, but you can also take your ballot to those locations, and that is your vote by mail ballot to those locations, and they'll be processed. So with that said, I want to play this tape for you, but don't tune out before you hear what John Lewis said. But thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. Be sure to tune back in next week, Thursday at 8:00, and look for us out in the whirlwind. Tell somebody else. Send them to the website, www.akilkhalfani.com, and make sure wherever you go, you put in the hashtag I rock with Doc. Here's John Lewis.
When you see something that is not right, not fair, you have a moral obligation to say something, to do something. Continue to be brave and bold and courageous. Continue to stand up, speak up, and speak out. All of us must begin where we are, to build bridges of compassion.
So stand up, be bold, and bring about change. Together, we will bring about a progressive, positive change for American society, and for our community, and for the 10th district. Thank you, and good night.